in LinkedIn News, which was about 25 big ideas for 2025. I thought that might be good fodder for discussion. Now, it wasn't a WordPress base, but it started out discussing AI in 2025 and then moved on to other topics. Some of might be more interesting than others for us, but maybe we won't have a chance to talk about it. Maybe there won't be a replay this month.
Well, there's lots of developments in AI. I feel like that's always going to be a
Yeah.
topic.
You know what I like? I started getting these commercials for these inner ear headphones that translate. Because I know we've had translation apps and what have you, and you can have, you can talk into your phone and things like that. But this is it's basically the freaking universal translator from Star Trek, is what it is. And I haven't clicked on the ad. I've been getting them on YouTube, but one of these times I'm going to go ahead and click it and find out what they're at, just to see where it's starting, because before long those things will be available pretty ubiquitously. And that's something that has some real global ramifications. I mean, imagine if you could, because eventually they'll, especially with AI driving it, and it is AI driving it, it'll be able to. I mean, I think the demo they were doing was showing them using it for Spanish. But how
Hmm.
long before you can just tap into whatever has translation databases out there? I mean,
Yeah, but huge potential there for international people for sure.
yeah, yeah. I know when I watch Dave Rubin, whom I tend to watch pretty much every day, um, and it was mostly with President Malay. They would show a clip, and I pay attention because my family's from Argentina, and he's been doing all
Hmm.
kinds of interesting stuff down there, similar to this Doge stuff that Vivek and Elon are bringing to us, but he kind of set the blueprint for it. But they would play a clip, and you would have the translation underneath. And since I understand Spanish, I can verify that the translation is accurate-ish. Those translations always are accurate-ish. Um, but if every once in a while, Dave would have to say, for those of you listening at home, this is what he just said. And that's the way it's been for, well, probably most of the last year. And then just recently, I guess they added AI translation to their podcast technology, so that when he speaks, not only does it translate his speech, but it kind of mimics his voice, which is interesting.
Like in real time, yeah, like dubbing almost, but in real
Yeah, but
time.
what's odd is now since I no longer hear the original in Spanish, I can't really tell if the translation I'm getting is accurate.
Hmm. Mhm.
That's where I think some of the danger might lie. Because if we're getting clear translations of each other as a species, that I think is great. But if nefarious forces were to start popping in and meddling with those translation, suddenly Putin, you know, is saying, "You're an MFer. I'm hitting the button now and sending missiles your way." When in fact he just said, "Yeah, I'm more than willing to have a discussion about that."
Right, right.
That
And then on top of that, like that, and that's kind of touches on something I've been um playing around with, which is like you can clone yourself basically. I was kind of as a joke, I was talking with a friend. I'm like, I'm gonna clone myself. And you can basically record a 2-minute video of you talking and then feed it AI voice that sounds exactly like you, and suddenly you have a video of yourself saying things you never said on camera.
See, that's
And it
that
was
a
like it
lot
was
of
the
this.
best quality I had seen because that's been around kind of for a while, but this was
Sure.
like holy moly, I was fooling myself with my own video.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I can
Because
set it up to automatically do something like that. I mean, if I can figure that out, like I know that people that more nefarious than I can can certainly figure that
absolutely.
out.
Yeah. And you think with as tenuous a geopolitical situation as we have on the global stage, you know, there's I'm hearing about World War III a lot. And might not that be one way to push us closer to the brink is to start
Oh,
changing the
100%.
narrative, or start.
Cyber warfare. We're not ready for that next that next wave of cyber warfare, I don't think.
I
I'd like
just
to be
hope,
wrong.
yeah, yeah. I just hope the powers that be have the wherewithal to understand that as a real possibility. But even if they're doubting what they hear, that kind of throws a wrench in them believing each other when it's real. So it's like this weird catch 22 that's possible. And this is assuming AI remains benign. You know, if a la Matrix, the machine people ever decided to take matters in their own hand to decide that we meat puppets were silly and irrational and detrimental to the
Totally.
you know to the world. That could be some scary stuff. And we've all seen that movie. That's not even anything new.
One of the greats.
Well, geez, guys, it's 6:22.
I'm guessing you don't see it. Yeah, there's no like waiting room or anything like that.
No, it's just the three of us, man. No, there's a tone goes off when somebody pops into the waiting room.
Okay.
Oh well, any either of you guys come across any interesting presentations? We might. I really want to set up presentations for every meeting in 2025. They really make a big I mean, hell, I have a more interesting time myself when we have a product demo or a product presentation, and then we can have discussion and help. You guys come across anything interesting this month?
Yeah, there's a few things. Hartford next Tuesday is doing the presentation on interactive search engine plugins. So,
Interactive search engine
which I thought that was
plugins.
an interesting topic. I think it's an interactive look at SEO plugins. And those guys that
Okay.
probably do the presentation, you might get them to present for you.
Are we
Amber
talk
Hines. Oh, go ahead.
are we talking about like interactive as in with AI, interacting with AI, or
No, search engine optimization plugins. Links in the chat. Amber Hines has one. She likes to present on accessibility, strategies and goals. That'll be next Monday. But she's one that's a big advocate for accessibility, and you probably get her or some of her associates to present for you.
Did you say her name is Amber Harper?
Amber Hines. She's well
And
known in the accessibility community. And she's got a meetup called WordPress Accessibility Group, and they have several meetups every month. And I put her link in the chat. Her meetup. Both of these are the meetup.com links. Who else is out there that's been
Oh,
presenting?
hers starts at 5 too.
whose um,
Good.
whose group is that first one?
That is Hartford. It's
That
a
is hard. Okay.
Peter and Ray run that one. They do a pretty good job. They every month, and
Yeah, I like Peter. Can't remember. I think I've met Ray
I
once or
think it's
twice,
Ray.
but
I think the other guy's Ray, but
that's
Peter
what I see.
shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, Peter shows up in some of these other meetups, but it's a little late for him because they're Connecticut and we're West Coast people.
Yeah. I think he came maybe one time.
He comes to. I think he's been in Eagles meetup, and I know you go to that one,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
maybe
think
not
he's
this one.
been in Steve's. But yeah,
Yeah.
he's a pretty knowledgeable guy.
Mhm.
They're big with cadence theme, and um, who else is out there for what is the online WordPress? The Portland WordPress meetup has meetups presentations sometimes. What did they have last? Oh, they did a presentation on browser inspector tools last month. Who did that one? Was that Doug Ryder?
I was gonna say that's gotta be Doug Ryder.
Oh no. Well,
No?
Doug Ryder was the host, but a guy named Rory
Hmm,
Heaney, Heaney,
okay.
lead front end developer for CIE Digital Labs. I think I missed that one.
You
But
know, I
here's,
was supposed to check the replay on that.
I guess I can put that link if you want to contact them about doing presentations for you, because I think that you're searching for is people who can.
Yeah,
But
anything that would be interesting to this audience,
well, anything
whether it's directly
WordPress.
WordPress or, in a more ancillary fashion.
Did either of you guys go to that Orange County meetup last Monday?
Uh,
It's
was
apparently their
that the
last
one with?
one.
Was it the live one with various?
I didn't go to it, so I don't know who was there, but it's usually online, but I went in November and they said that December is going to be their last one and they're relinquishing host and
Oh, I didn't hear that because Orange. Oh wait, Orange County. I'm thinking
yeah, down by us
Inland
basically.
Empire. Yeah, Orange County.
Mhm.
Don't they have a WooCommerce meetup down there? Orange
Yeah, I
County?
think they have that as well too. I think
Yeah.
the two guys that and I think another woman that were running it basically just were fed up with
Oh,
everything in WordPress and we're like
yeah.
relinquishing host.
Yeah. The one guy is works for Pixel Jar, and the
Hmm.
other one is Sarah. I think she always has
Yep.
the wild glasses.
Yeah, I couldn't remember her name. I've met her a couple
I
times
think
here
it's
though.
Sarah.
Yeah. I
They're
mean,
pretty
super
knowledgeable.
knowledgeable folks. Yeah.
Yeah, they seem to really know their stuff. That's too bad.
Too
That's
bad that they
And
felt,
that was going away?
yeah,
oh, I
Oh,
had
man.
not heard
which
I
that.
is, I
think,
mean,
you know
that's like one
what?
of
As
the
I'm
most
recalling, I
populated
seem to
counties in this
recall getting
country.
the invitation, and that was an in-person one.
I don't know. I thought it was just online, but yeah, as I said, I wasn't able to make it. But I think it was online because that's their whole thing. They've kind of scaled everything back. And they used to do a lot. They used to do word camps there. But yeah, everything's just been scaled back, it seems. So,
Hmm.
That's too bad. It's the automatic Matt Mullenweg versus
mhm.
WP Engine
And I think
fiasco.
they're plugin owners, and so I, I I assume, and I don't think they really got into it, but just nervous about what the future of the repository is for plugin authors, and
Yeah, and they'll target you if you support the wrong people, which is pretty petty in my mind, but
yeah, oh for sure.
that's too bad. Yeah, that was a good group. They seem like they've been around a while and they had some pretty good. I was
Like,
confusing them with the Inland Empire one, which is
mhm.
San Bernardino, I think.
Yeah,
Now, one of the
one county
news
over.
items that I had was how they WordPress.org removed DreamHost from
Yeah,
their recommended hosting.
yeah, they did that last month or well, a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
This is .org or .com.
This was the
.org.
.org.
Yeah, because they recommend hosting.
Says the removal came without any explanation, with the associated change set message simply stating hosting colon RM DreamHost per mat. So
Wasn't
it
giving them enough
basically
money.
just he just sent them a note
Said they weren't
to
advertising enough anymore. I don't know. I'm just joking,
they
but
had previously been removed from the page earlier this year. Says the hosting page has been a point of contention within the community for years. The lack of clarity surrounding the criteria for being listed or delisted on this influential page has often sparked debates. Last year, apparently, SiteGround
background, yeah, that was a
Yeah.
was
big.
removed, and
Are you looking at the WP Tavern article, or are you talking?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's where I posted that a week or so ago on one of my other meetups. Yeah, it's like it's a mystery about, but most people speculate that either you're advertising and he'll endorse you, or if you're not sending him any money, you won't be. It's not based on performance or value. It's based on who's contributing to WordPress and who's advertising on WordPress, that type of thing. It's
Well, and there's also what's going on behind the scenes. Is there support within the hosting community for oh God, what's the one that just got
DreamHost, WP,
no, no, no,
WP Engine.
WP Engine. Is this related to that, or is there a completely
It
unrelated
could be.
issue?
It's pretty much you're either with us or against us. He's done a lot of that, and that could be what's going on with the Orange County because some of them were pretty big ACF users, right?
Well,
Because
we also knew that there was a lot of WP meetups that were going away.
well, that
You know,
was before the instant, but the thing about the ACF is they mirrored that and then blocked. WP Engine owns ACF, and they're the whatever, and it's a huge plugin that a lot of people use, very powerful. So they mirrored her and put a complete copy on the repository right after they blocked the ACF plugin. So people who were using ACF couldn't update for a couple of days, and then eventually they got a workaround. But the new one is called
Secure custom fields.
Secure Custom Fields. That's right. Yeah, yeah. Brendan probably knows Brandon. Brandon.
Brendan.
Brendan. Yeah, you probably know a little bit more about because I've only used ACF on a couple of websites. I'm not really that proficient in it. I know it's
Yeah,
powerful. You can do a lot of tag and category stuff with it.
it's super
Uh,
powerful. I use it on almost every site.
yeah, if I don't do it often enough to develop proficiency, right? But if it was my day-to-day thing, I'd probably be pretty good at it, because it really extends the functionality of your page and post type action, to my
Yeah,
knowledge.
I know a lot of agencies that use WP Engine
So is it
because
back in
it's so
the
good for agency like site, just in terms of managing your backups and managing your staging environments and
so is it back
um,
to a state of stability in terms of being in favor with the powers that be? ACF?
It's kind of fork, isn't
no,
it,
not
Brandon?
really. Yeah, no, I mean they basically took it over and then they also just released the pro version of it, which, before it was just the free version and what WP Engine was continuing to own and control the pro version, which is how they make a bunch of money.
Mm.
But that has now also been added
Oh,
confusingly with the same name
so did
as
they
secure custom fields.
so did they put the pro version of ACF in the secure and they put that in the repository, made it available for free?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Which is like just another red line being crossed.
Wow, I didn't
right?
hear that one yet.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a
Man, we're not in Kansas anymore, guys. I
Jesus,
mean,
man. That's a
yeah.
there.
there's a
Yeah.
head scratcher. I mean,
And
I
and
tell you,
and
man.
now and now they're going after WooCommerce extensions, which I think was actually planned before. And I won't say I disagree with. I think WooCommerce is extremely expensive to get all the add-ons that you need for pretty basic stuff. So I'm not necessarily opposed, but I know people that are plugin creators for some of those very features that are
So
now like, wait a second, what's you're
so
doing what now?
Automatic's going after certain
WooCommerce
extension
extensions.
plugin developers.
Yeah.
Man,
And it seems like it's not limited, right, to just,
yeah, it's like, yeah,
WP Engine and just WooCommerce either. So yeah.
I
It's going to push a lot of people away for
I don't
sure.
get it, man. It's like you're not building goodwill. It's like, first of all, you air your dirty laundry in public like that. I mean,
Yeah.
the state of the word next week is going to be interesting. I think most people are going to want to see what Matt has to say about it. Although I'm getting kind of sick of the drama. I think it's like, come on, man, you're hurting a lot of people here.
I
Yeah, I
don't think
kind of
we're
stopped following
anywhere
it.
seeing the light at the end of that tunnel.
I know. I kind of just stopped paying attention to it.
Yeah, I had burnout,
I
but
have to. Same with politics. I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna take a break. Like I don't need to follow it every day.
No,
yeah, that's
but I mean, just the overall atmosphere is certainly doesn't make
I don't
anything
like
No,
more
it.
it's
pleasant.
bad. No, for sure. If you're a plugin developer,
I think you have
you
to.
should be scared.
Yeah, I think you have to pay attention to it. I'd follow politics. I don't mind it, but I don't lose any sleep over it. World War III, there's always been some kind of pending disaster where we're all going to die.
Well,
Oh,
And
for
yeah.
sure.
just
Exactly.
you just figure, well, you got to live your life, and if it happens, it happens. It's like what? Why degrade the quality of your life for months or years on end because you're worried about something that might happen?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
case in point, this last election, Trump's not even in office, and people are freaking out, and it's like, okay, let's just wait. Like,
See what he does. Yeah.
I
I don't
know.
care.
And the
Or
fact
just
that
go live your life. Like,
he has so many Democrats that jump ship and are now, the first time I voted him for my own political reasons after voting for Obama twice, so I'm a centrist, but one of the things I really hoped was he was going to be doing a good job. I mean, he was the celebrity apprentice, or had the show, which was all about team building and picking teams and picking, delegating
right
things and
person for
that
the
sort of thing.
job. Yeah.
So I thought he had an advantage going in. Well, it turned out he didn't have situational awareness in Washington. As a matter of fact, he said prior to running for office, he'd only really spent time in Washington like twice in his life. He's a New York guy, so he was really on a battlefield without, good eyes. This time, however, he's had time to develop relationships. Plus, we've also seen some people that are traditionally liberal, legacy Democrats, the Tulsi and Vivek and Elon and all these
Elon and
people.
Vivek. I don't think Vivek was ever, but Elon definitely, Tulsi definitely, RFK Jr. definitely. He just
The
didn't appreciate
the
the depth of the swamp and the self-dealing that goes on. But
because
on the
Vivek always spoke like, well, maybe it was just the fact that he always spoke very humanistically
well, yeah,
and was always very,
well,
like what I expect.
that's not a left or right thing, right? It's like, oh,
Well,
the right, oh, they hate
freedom
people,
of speech.
they're not like that. And the liberals, they're not like economic morons, although some certainly are, and some of the right might be.
But I
But
guess
getting
Well, and Vivek's also like one of these sort of younger conservatives that probably, didn't care about the gay marriage debate as much as like, the Pat Buchanan type Republicans. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And
I
But
don't know.
there's the
That's my impression.
legacy or more traditional liberal who believes in free speech, who believes in a lot of the values which have now shifted to the right side of the aisle. But regardless, I mean,
those are the more
he
prevalent
seems
issues
like
today.
somebody every time and I enjoy listening to him speak. It's
He,
refreshing to me
he's
to
dynamic.
hear.
He gets to it, man. But
But
to
he's
Brandon's,
also very he's so diplomatic, and he listens, and he responds, and he may disagree, but there are few people that can disagree with somebody as agreeably as Vivek. He's just got that
Charlie
charm.
Kirk,
What's that?
Charlie
Charlie
Kirk,
Kirk is good, but I
David
would say
Rubin.
that Charlie Kirk is even a little bit more acerbic than Vivek, I mean,
Yeah, but he's
Vivek,
going on campus and he's dealing with these people who
oh
hate
yeah.
him,
Yeah,
and he
yeah, yeah.
diplomatically has a discussion.
Yeah.
Getting back to Brendan's comments about, the whole gay transgender thing. I don't know anybody in the Republican Party has cared about that for 30 plus years. We
Right.
do,
Well, there's
nobody
things
cares,
like
right?
that.
It's like it's just not a,
Yeah,
live your life, right? It's about the kids. They don't want it in the schools. They
sure.
don't want it in
Hmm.
elementary school. That's really big. Pronouns, use them, don't use them. I don't care. But I think that woke
And
stuff
yet
But I
is,
mean,
that
you say 30 years, like obviously you've been around on this earth a little longer than I have, but I'm just thinking back to like, 2008. When was that when it was with
see,
that, like,
that'd be, well, that's good. That's 15.
I know it's like almost 20 years ago now at that point, which is
Pat
crazy.
Buchanan, that's a long,
Well,
seems a
Pat
long
Buchanan,
time.
yeah. I
Yeah,
was
it
just
seems
thinking
a
like the
while back for
social
me.
issues I
I mean,
remember as like a, teenager or whatever, like the gay
we
marriage
weren't
yeah,
debate
talking
going
about
up or
trans
whatever.
issues.
well,
I mean, I
really,
remember like even Obama, and when he was running, was like, "Oh, I don't agree with gay marriage," or whatever it
I think
was.
LGBTQ was just that, just LGBTQ. We hadn't added the plus
Right.
two and the two,
Well,
all
anyway,
the
my only point
IA
was just
and
that like like conservatives that I talk to and
yeah.
know that are like, younger, mostly don't care about that stuff. It's sort of more libertarian.
Yeah,
But I
almost
don't know.
everybody on the left and right are in their core libertarian. But yeah, I know what you're talking
Right,
about. You're
right,
talking about
right.
Christian right dominance
Yeah, like moral
a
majority stuff. I mean,
couple
that's
decades
obviously,
ago, and
yeah, for sure.
but they were always sort of a faction, right? They were never really, if people have a faith, they're entitled to their opinions. And most of them are, the issue with them is abortion. That's
Hmm.
and
the
that's
Yeah.
where
litmus
the
test for it.
Republicans always shoot themselves in the foot. They always did. Anyway, I mean, that's before we got rid of, or not rid of, well, we got rid of Roe versus Wade, which I think is a great thing. Let the states decide. I mean, anything that puts more responsibility on the states and less on the federal, I'm in favor. You know,
Yeah, me
I
too.
mean,
You know,
I think it was untoward that they put so much emphasis on
if
abortion
if the federal
specifically.
government can make it legal, they can make it illegal. So
Yeah. As we
it's just
And
see.
not the right spot for the federal government to decide. Whatever your moral perspective, you're entitled to that. But I agree with Edward, is that the less central control, let it have at the local, especially with schools, local school boards, let them decide, right? But if you have a top-down central control, all that, it always deteriorates, man.
Mhm.
Always.
mm, yeah, I've been watching a few different interviews with like Vivek and well,
Doge stuff.
the Trump interview on MSNBC, eh, on Meet the Press,
Is Meet the Press,
whatever.
that's NBC, right?
It was NBC, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Um, but watching, especially if you sign up for the X account, Doge X account, where they're basically just laundry listing waste and ridiculous spending. You can go to the Twitter account and get a pretty good eyeful of just crazy stuff
I,
that we're
I think there's going
spending
to be,
on.
I think there's going to be bipartisan support eventually because the waste is just too egregious. Some of the stuff they're spending money on,
Yeah, but that
you
money
just get,
goes somewhere though.
it
That's the
does. It goes into
thing.
people's, almost all of it
So
goes into people's pockets, right? It
exactly,
does.
that's
Not
why
mine.
Yeah,
I
not mine either.
that just means that the people that are seeing their lunch money disappearing, they're going to start pushing back and doing what they do, because I mean, if we got to the point where every bill that was passed in Congress was just a few pages
It'd be
or
one line
even
item.
one page, where you just
Oh,
say, okay, we want to do
yeah, there should be
this.
single issue. They call it log rolling, where they'll put the title of the bill in their one thing, and then they'll have all these other ones in there. They'll just log.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
pork bill spending.
Well, and we actually have gotten to the point where you've got these multi-hundred page bills where they've now come out. I think Nancy Pelosi recently was talking about this, where she was literally saying, we'll just pass it and then we'll learn what it does.
Yeah,
And this
that's
is, it's like, what? You
It's
know,
nuts.
not exactly representative government. Did you see Ed O'Keefe's undercover sting video on the EPA?
Hey, Edward from Brass Ring Web Design popping in for a sec to tell you how we can help your DIY website project by making your website effective, not just pretty. At Brass Ring, we take a big picture approach to digital marketing, building a strong foundation that drives long-term growth. We use our hub and spoke traffic model. Yes, of course, we design high-performing WordPress websites that serve as your central marketing hub. We also coordinate traffic to it from key platforms like email marketing, SEO, social media, and ads. We align every aspect of your digital presence for lasting success. More than just ad managers, we're your partner, optimizing the entire customer journey to better use your time and marketing investment and deliver lasting value. Training and coaching you along the way means you continue to save DIY money and retain control. And now, back to our meeting. No.
3, 4 days ago, you got the EPA guys, a high guy up, climate change, and he said they were throwing gold bars over. They're giving all this money to these private, $50 billion is worth is what it was. Ed O'Keefe used to be Project Veritas, and there was a dust up, and now he's got his
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
O'Keefe Media Group, and they do the Sting videos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, a
yeah.
few days ago, he come up, he got a
Those
high-ranking
those
EPA
date
guy
those
said
date videos. Yeah.
some of
Well,
them, yeah,
yeah,
but
they would somebody would date somebody in the in
and then
the
they'd start talking,
DNC.
and he'd get them on camera. Yeah, it was one of those. Yeah. Anyway, this guy was saying they were moving money as fast as they could and giving it to all these different. It's like they said the one guy said they had moved like $50 billion.
And that's, and
That's
actually
insane, man.
that's really not that high of a number because some of the numbers that I was hearing, there was do I have it here? Did I save that? Um, they had a chart. It was a pie chart with a legend that was breaking down expenditures. Um, was it Trump? God dang it.
Well,
Anyway, it was breaking it down by like mistaken expenditures, like where they would accidentally send tens of billions of dollars, or a comma or a decimal point would be put in the
Oh
wrong
man.
place, and they would send the money to Ukraine, and then later on somebody would go, oh, that was supposed to be for a whole lot less money.
wasn't the Department of Defense couldn't account for $1 trillion a few years ago?
Well,
They've never passed an
there's
audit. They've
they've
literally never
never
passed
passed.
an
Yeah,
audit. It's
yeah.
disgusting.
Musk and Vivek, they think they're saying talking about $2 trillion in savings. I don't
I'm
believe that even all of them together. I don't think they're going to be able to drain that much of the swamp because there's too many invested interests. But I noticed that the Senate is starting to come around.
in 18 months because you know that this Doge expires in 18 months. In 18 months, it disappears.
Yeah, but
That's odd that they would put an expiration on it. Do
Well,
they
I
have to?
think
Because it's
I
not like
think
an
what they're
official
doing, well, two
department or
things. One, they've both got bigger. They've all, I don't think either one of them wants to dedicate themselves to this job forever. And also, I think they're sending a message that,
it's going to be
you know,
quick.
well, it's kind of paradoxical that in order to take 428 agencies down to a manageable size,
90.
they're actually creating a pretty massive and very powerful agency to do it. So I think the 18-month thing is,
They want to sunset it so somebody doesn't assume the.
I think it's symbolic to a great extent, and I think it's they're setting the mission spirit already. Now, I mean, I'd kind of like to see it go for 4 years, but I think these guys both have a history of hitting the ground running and not wasting a lot of time suffering fools, especially Elon. So, Vivek was talking about, and I thought this was genius because one of the things they're going to be doing is mass firings, which of course has a huge human toll. These are people with families, these are careers, these are livelihoods. And he said this, and it's genius. And I can see it being a driving force on how they're going to do things. Fire all these people, but give them 18 months of severance.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's genius because I mean, any complaints from the left having to do with this is cruel and unusual. I mean, come on. Who gives you 18 months of severance? And yet we're not going to feel it. We're just
That's
going
a
to
good
keep
proposal.
spending the same money for 18 months that we've been spending for years and years and years. But in 18 months, there's going to be this just cliff
Yeah, but
where
the government, the federal government and the state and local governments as well have bloated to the point we have so many unproductive people. And then we have to keep paying them because they have jobs. But in the private sector, if you don't perform, you lose your job. And the private sector is so much more healthier because of it.
and a huge
Right?
percentage of them aren't even going to work.
Oh,
It would be nice to
Falling.
it'd be
96%.
nice to see them create like an actual jobs program then instead of just severance. Like let's create some jobs and whatever. There's going to be all kinds of new industries popping up.
Well, I mean,
Put
18
them to work in
months of a
AI.
bloated salary should give people the personal power to
They
retrain, to
estimate that
find.
the average person has 7 career changes in their lifetime. To think that you only work for one job, which is how it used to be maybe 40 years ago. You go to
Right.
work
You
at
get
the
a
mill,
pension.
right? But industries come and go, and you should be adaptable. You should retask your skill set. You should be in the game, right? I mean, and if
Mhm.
you're not in the
Don't
game,
get complacent. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, well, who do you gonna blame the government because I'm too lazy to pay attention to my career or to develop skills? Is that me as a taxpayer? Is that my responsibility?
Mhm.
And I'm saying this metaphorically, right? I mean, it's like, yeah, nobody wants people not to be able to feed their family, right? Nobody wants to lose a job. It's traumatic. I've gone through a little bit of that, which is why I've been self-employed for 35 years now because I didn't want to go through that again. But
Well,
yeah, it's like, what? Why is it that at the public sector, somebody's been working for a school district, or working for the city government, working for the county or the state or the federal government, only works like 10 hours a week, right? But they might lose their job. They're so unproductive, but that's a moral dilemma. Not for
right.
me, it isn't, right? It's like,
Well, Gad Sad had just published a book called Suicidal Empathy, which I think really covers this
who is that?
phenomenon.
The guy that did the blinking point guy? Is that
Gad Sad is an evolutionary psychologist. He's a
called
Canadian.
suicidal empathy? That's like
Suicidal Empathy is the name of the book and the term.
it's
He
like
talks about how you know, well, I mean, to me, it says that we're so concerned at being compassionate that we're doing it to our own destruction. You
sounds like
know,
something Dr. Jordan Peterson would say.
well, like I say, he's an evolutionary psychology. He's a professor in Canada. They are certainly friends.
What's it?
Um, and
Gadsden?
Gad Sad, Gad Saad is the last name. He's a Lebanese Jew who
Canadian
was in
psychologist. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
evolutionary psychology. So he's been, he's invested in how we evolve as a as a as a species in terms of our psychology, and certainly the group psychology this last number of years
His
has
website
been
says
pretty
professor of
astounding.
marketing at Concordia in evolutionary behavior science. I'll put his link in the
He's a
chat.
he's a
It's
lovely
interesting.
guy. I see. He's good friends with Dave Rubin, so he's on Dave Rubin's quite a bit. He's been on there as an appearing guest and also as a featured interview a number of times.
I think I've seen him before, but
He's got really good things to say, and absolutely somebody that is worth listening to. Everything okay there, Mike?
yeah, I'm just a brief interruption here. I'll be right back.
Okay. I was meaning
Sorry
to
about that.
ask. I, I,
Domestic obligations.
ah, I was
These are my
meaning to
chores.
ask if you had any thoughts on the that. I saw an article there on WP, P Tavern, talking about how the judge in the WP Engine versus Automatic case was, and I don't know what's happened. This was on the 27th, so it's been a couple of weeks now.
He was inclined to grant the motion, but it was too broad and not specific enough. Is the one you're talking about.
Has there been
Yeah.
any movement on that? I haven't seen
I didn't
anything.
look into that. I'm actually putting together my Woo Wednesday summaries right now, and I
Okay.
haven't really gotten to. I just did all the meetups, and now I'm starting to look at the.
The news.
Yeah, I'm at WP Engine right now. It's kind of WordPress speed build challenge against Matt Mullenweg. That could be
Yep.
interesting.
Yeah, that was last Friday.
Did you read that one?
I watched the first little bit of it, but then I had a live stream right after that.
Yeah.
And then, but apparently he like used Chat GPT because he was like, I don't know how to use the block editor.
Huh. I'll have to check that out, man.
Yeah, I
They've
know.
gone to the videos. I don't really care for it quite as much. It used to be they'd have articles and maybe with
Uh,
it. I don't like just the complete video format. I like the summary.
for the speed
But
builds or just in general?
what's that?
For the speed builds or just in general for
Oh, and just
WordPress
in
news?
general. Well,
Yeah.
WP Tavern used to have someone who, and then she left like last year, and
Mm-hmm.
then he got a bunch of other people to kind of take
Guest
over.
post or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't really do articles as much. They do more like podcast type stuff. And I
Mm-hmm.
like being able to skim the article and then occasionally having a video attached as well. It's just more efficient for me. I've never been one to really gravitate to the videos as
Mm-hmm.
much because
What
it's a
was the
30-minute
issue with the speed
video.
builds?
What?
What was the problem with the speed builds? That Matt was using Chat GPT?
This is looking like an actual article here, so maybe
Yeah, it was. I guess it's on Jamie Marsland's channel, who's now head of WordPress YouTube.
yeah. The
Um,
WP Tavern's got an article
so
on
this
it.
is an article about that.
It's
But I
written by.
mean, what's the issue?
Oh,
Well, they,
people
they're
were just saying that like that, not really that just that he's using AI, just that like the guy who's pushing the block editor so much is clearly not really using it that much because he was struggling to build simple stuff.
Mm.
Which is like, I mean, the head of, I mean, I just can't imagine having that same kind of logic with not to defend Matt too much, but it's like the CEO of a company doesn't necessarily use the product that they're the CEO of, you know?
yeah. A bit of
Have
hypocrisy there is what you're
It'd be
talking
nice if they did, but yeah, I mean, I didn't expect that he would be super efficient and oh, like here's my trick for using the block editor. It's like, no, he's like a running a business. So I don't know. It was just kind of ironic, I guess.
about. Yeah, I'm gonna have to
so I
share this.
wonder. I'm going to switch over here and look at. I told you earlier that there was a great article on LinkedIn on 25 big ideas that will change our world in 2025. And I was hoping we'd have more of a panel here to talk about it, but certainly
You want to throw the link in the chat, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we'll take a look at that?
And while you're getting that, Edward, Mike, that tweet that I posted was it's from like the WooCommerce head lead, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you for drawing my
You
attention
probably
to
saw
that.
something like that, but
Well, I
I
hadn't seen. Well, I'll look at that right now. I didn't see your post in the
gotcha.
chat yet.
Mhm.
So, but thanks for alerting me.
I guess yeah, it's like this more in core initiative where they're putting all kinds of,
Oh, right. Yeah, there's it's the developer blog, I think, had something on that. But I will look at
yeah,
that in just a minute when I finish
sure, sure.
getting
Just so you
this.
have it for your
Yeah,
Woo
no,
meetings.
yeah. Thank you for that. I really appreciate the tips, man.
Mhm.
So, like I said, there's 25 different ideas that, and evidently this is an annual end of the year feature that LinkedIn News does. Um, this year, number one, of course, has to do with AI. Number one is AI will pave the way to a shorter work week. The integration of AI into our daily work routines has quickly become less of a novelty and more of a cultural norm. Soon it will become a necessity, something people will begin to expect from their tools at work and spark a productivity revolution. Then it goes on into talking about the AI that we have now will evolve into basically intelligent digital assistants that will be streamlining a lot of the more tedious work, um, which sounds great.
Definitely. Yeah.
Um,
I've been playing around
and
with
it
AI agents for that very thing to handle scheduling and messaging and research and things like that. You can just run AI.
Now, what do you use to schedule your life in terms of calendars and things like
I
that?
so I recently got this automation tool that I can self-host on a $5 a month VPS called N8N. And if you're familiar with any automation tools like Zapier, it's pretty similar to that. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I would love to show you guys if you want to see it.
Sure.
I'm looking at this James Kemp post. So he must be a WooCommerce guy or
Yeah,
a product manager. Okay.
I
Yeah.
think he was just promoted to that. I could be wrong. It's hard to keep track of. There's a bunch of guys that wear hats in their profile pictures that all kind of look the same to me. So I don't know. I
Wait till
say
you
that
get
as a
older,
nerd.
man. It only gets worse.
Yeah. No, my eyes already going too.
You've got,
They do seem to have a lot of turnover at Woo.
did you
Oh
want
yeah,
to share
especially
your
lately.
screen?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, let's see what you got there.
I can just give you a brief run through. Um, so let's see, where should I start? Maybe like this one. So this is a workflow, and it's like the brain is this AI agent. And you can see here I've got a chat model hooked up to it from Claude Anthropic. I've hooked up a Woo
What's the name of this thing you're showing us?
N8N, N8N.io. And they have right, I'm hosting it basically for free. So you can pay for it and you get limited stuff, but you can do the community edition, self-host it. It's similar to Zapier. Active Pieces is another one that I use pretty regularly that has a pretty generous pricing. So you could use pretty much any of these tools. But well, I say that, but N8N has this particular like AI agent module. Um, but yeah, I mean, you can add actions after this. They have all kinds of WordPress stuff. They have MailChimp. Oh, well, I seem to have broke my stream here. MailChimp, Constant Contact, right? Any of your newsletters. But yeah, it's essentially I can hook it up to my Gmail, my Google Drive, WooCommerce database, and it answers questions for me. And I can have it run on different triggers, either like when a chat message is received or run it on a schedule. So it's pretty wild. So yeah, I'm trying to test out workflows for different clients and at our agency as well. So it can look at your calendar, see if you have availability, respond with a Zoom link to that person. So it's like almost like a Calendly replacement. Um, but
You know,
yeah,
I'm I'm
it's
not getting
wild.
that site to come up. NAN.io.
Eight.
N8N.
Oh, N8. Excuse me.
Yeah,
Okay.
my bad. Sorry, just
No,
my
no.
pronunciation.
I,
I put it in
it's,
the chat.
I guess I could have done that too. Just
no,
post it in
no.
chat.
This might
Yeah.
be a good free product to share at my Woo for free resources.
Yeah, and Active Pieces is free for 1,000 tasks a month. N8N is not free necessarily. It's free if you want to self-host it. Trying to find the chat window here. Put that in the chat too. Okay, it's already there. But anyway, yeah, it's I'll show you. I can show you Active Pieces too, real quick.
Yeah, I pulled up that website too. I'm going to share both of these.
Yeah,
But you're leaning to the N8N, huh? This is the one you're.
for that's what I'm checking out because this AI agent is so amazing. You can hook up different tools to it. If I wanted to
I
give
like
it
that
access
graphic
to,
interface. It's
right. Yeah,
I
it
like
fit more for me too. Like the actual interface was easier for me to use. But like now I've
yeah,
just hooked
I
up.
like mind map.
Mhm.
I'm visual learner, so
And Active Pieces does kind of have this. I can show you like this is Active Pieces. So you can like zoom in.
hmm.
Um, Same idea, except it flows down, right? But this one is like scheduling something. It asks ChatGPT and then it posts in my WordPress site and it just loops around on those items. And you can do all kinds of stuff with this. And you just come in here and add, whatever else you want. WooCommerce, create coupon in WooCommerce, right? That could be useful as an automation.
So walk me through a task, a route. Has this have you gotten to the point where you have like say a routine task that you do automated on this, or are you
Yeah, for
still
sure. No, for sure.
playing with
Yeah.
it?
I've been using Active Pieces for over a year now. Um, and it's good. And I bought a lifetime deal for it, and the free plan's pretty nice too. But I'll show you like every time I'm trying to find it now. Here we go. My YouTube flow. So every time I upload a new YouTube to my channel, there's my channel ID. It creates a post in WordPress with the title of the video. So you bring in stuff from the previous steps here.
Wow.
So
So
it's
it's
putting
like
it on your
my WordPress site
personal
here.
WordPress
Yeah. And I
website.
have a
Okay.
bunch of websites hooked up here, right? So these are all other WordPress sites. And then I post a link to it, I embed it, create a slug for it, put the featured media, I mean, really anything. And then it goes on to the next step. I send a message to my Discord, and then I ask ChatGPT, hey, can you write me a one sentence tweet about that video title that changes for every video? And then it writes the tweet. It says use that ChatGPT and do that. So there's
Steve
like the
Kinsey's
text of the
here.
tweet. So it's I just got sick of trying to, I'd upload it here. I got to go to my blog and post it. Got to go to my Discord and post it. Got to go to tweet it. So I'm
Wow.
just like, yeah, just do it in one go automatically.
Wow. That
And
looks
you
pretty cool,
and
man.
you can add other stuff,
How do
right?
you
Like if I
trigger?
wanted to post it to LinkedIn, I can
How do you
do
trigger this?
this one's just on upload. So I just have to create my video in YouTube. And then this checks basically every, I don't know, a couple minutes if there's a new video. If
So
there is a new
it
video,
senses that you uploaded it to YouTube.
correct. Yeah.
And you set the workflow so it.
Yeah. So like this is the first node is always a trigger, which is like the thing that
Uh,
triggers the workflow, and then it starts going down and doing the different steps. And adding another step in here is just as easy as, as I said, like if I wanted to add LinkedIn to this, I could share an update there.
and you can, I imagine, set up timings in between if you want to delay something. And
Yeah, there's a delay for,
yeah,
delay
gotcha.
until. You can also like split it. um, is it
Have
like
it
what's it
wait for
called?
a second trigger
Conditions,
event.
or like a router. It can say if it has this value, do this flow. If otherwise, do this. Lots of different
So,
How many branches can you set up? Endless?
unlimited. Yeah, I mean it's you can kind of get it as big as you want, right? It's I should probably
so,
delete some of these though now.
so what's your opinion between this N8N versus the active pieces? Are you still evaluating? Are you thinking about moving to N8N, or do you think
Uh,
it sounds like you're more
Hey,
proficient?
Steve.
Hey man,
Steve, welcome.
Welcome, man.
I
Nice
missed
to
it.
meet
It's
you.
So,
just it's just been the three of us, but it's been a really interesting
well, I've been
conversation.
doing in another thing on DNS, but cloud.activepieces.com, is that the application, Brendan?
Yeah, that's like what I'm logged into. They have a cloud version, or you can self-host it, but I'm on their cloud version.
And because I'm trying to get there and I can't get there.
Oh, well, because that's like what I'm logged in. If you just go to Active Pieces, if you have an account, um, then it takes you to cloud.
Okay,
That Active Pieces.
activepieces.com is where I want to try to be though, right?
Yeah. And it's nice that you can just kind of start for cheap. You don't have to do a monthly plan. I think it's just you get 1,000 tasks for free, and then $1 for every 1,000 tasks after that.
Hey,
Right.
I got a question for you guys. I think the answer is no, but I'll ask anyway. So Steve just joined us, which means he cannot see any of the chat that has transpired so far unless one of us sends him the text file at the end of this meeting. And
That's
that
right.
text file is still kind of crappy, if you ask me. But is there any way to make
Well, I can
the
cut and
entire
paste.
chat visible to
I can
somebody
cut.
who's
I can
uh,
cut and paste and send it to him in an email.
well, yeah. I thought of that, but I mean, I just wondered if
No, if
Zoom
you send it
has.
to me as a text file, if you have an Apple device,
Well,
and
I can
actually,
send it on an email. I figure you don't want all those posts on your cell
oh
phone, do you?
yeah, if you send it to me any way you want. You can send it to me in a
All
text
right.
message. It's fine.
Well, I will copy the chat and send you the file.
I'm gonna mail
Cool.
you a letter,
However you want to do it.
Steve, a
However
Yeah,
you
physical
want to do
because
it.
letter.
we definitely there's a limit in chat. I mean, if I copy all of it that's we've done so far and put it in a chat window,
No, no, you'd have to send
it's
it
not
in.
going to
You'd have
let
to
me.
send it in an
So
email or a text file or something like that. But
yeah,
yeah,
I'll send you the
Yeah.
text file.
Oh, you're
is
gonna
it
do it? Okay,
active? Is it
cool.
is
Yeah,
it
I can do
active?
that.
Is it active pieces all one word or active dot pieces?
Active Pieces all here. I'll link it in
All
chat
one
here.
word. Yeah.
Excuse me.
So I'm gonna get back to my one question. Are
Yeah.
you leaning to one over the other of the two? Because
Right
they're very
now, I
similar.
am. Yeah, no, it's similar, and I don't think I'm gonna move like this flow necessarily to
As
N8N,
you
but
it's
N8N,
established built.
yeah, N8N's insanely powerful though. I mean, you can have because this lets you have multiple trigger nodes before you can only have one, and if I want to add another one, I can just whatever.
So
It's
Steve,
not
he's
letting me add
got
it.
there's two platforms here.
Right.
He's got experience and been using active pieces, but there's this new one he's looking, which looks very promising too. And I think he's checking out this new one. And what he's showing
Yeah,
right there is this new N8N.io.
Which has more of a mind map. The other
yeah,
one's
It's
more
got
like
an
a family
AI
tree.
generator in it.
Now,
yeah,
hey,
it's crazy.
Brendan, are there different formats, active pieces? Does it have more than one way to display besides the family tree format?
I don't think so. Not really. This is their default.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would say it's more limited. N8N's been around a lot longer.
This reminds me a lot of how Constant Contact does
Yeah,
their
same idea,
automation.
right? For creating automations or, any kind of flow.
It
One
very
thing
much
happens and
looks,
then
it very much looks like it. The thing I don't like about it is that, well, and you do have, they do have easier zoom in and zoom out. Um, but
N8N's is free.
especially
It's on.
if you're
It's on.
well,
if
it's
you get
free
to
if
the
you
point where you've
self-host
got,
it.
if you get to the point where you have multiple steps, it gets a little clunky to see it all in one view, which I like that. I like that mind map
Yeah.
view a little better.
Kind of sweet though.
Yeah, it's
And
it's pretty
these are
cool.
interesting tools. I wasn't aware of either one of these.
Yeah,
I have
like
one. I used to use one. I can't remember the name of it. I was trying to think of it. It allowed me to use send to different posts the different social media platforms. So you could, make a post and you
Right.
could create it to go. And I can't remember what the name of it was called. And
like Hootsuite or something like that.
no, 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 it wasn't Hootsuite. It was
Well, they'll do
make.
that, right? They'll
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
add,
basically a similar concept.
yeah.
Yeah.
it used to be. I mean, I know that Hootsuite used to have something like that, but this, what I'm talking about, was something that was like for this purpose. Like it was called like
Like Zapier or no?
no, no, no. It was called
Okay.
like Send Later or something. I mean, I can't even remember, but it was something to the fact that I could make one post and I could like, send it out and set up my posting calendar and all that crap. And it was just such a pain in the ass that I mean it allowed me to do the cool stuff, but it was such a pain in the ass that I just said, I just gave up on it because it was too much work to keep up with it.
Yeah,
And if it's too much work to keep up with, what are you doing it for, right? I mean,
for sure.
it should be easy. That was always my point. So yeah,
And
Hey,
I will say, like there, some of these tools are complex. Like they're not as simple as they probably could be.
right.
And that's like one of my, I don't know, I guess critiques. Like you can learn how to do them, but yeah.
That's one of my
So
critiques too. If you can't, I mean, if it's too fucking hard to learn, I mean, what the fuck are we doing, right? Like I don't want to spend something that's supposed to be simple and help me. Shouldn't
right.
take me, a damn, year and a half to learn. It should
yeah.
be
And,
somewhat
and
easy.
what's really nice is like they do have a good amount of templates now, so you can
It
like if
says
you
a
want,
thousand
yeah, if you want to
workflow
look at,
automation. So you can, and I imagine that you can upload. Does it allow you to upload yours once you've created it to add
yeah,
it to the
exactly.
community?
But I was thinking of exactly that's what you can do, and these are all a lot of these are community made. But I was
Daily
thinking about
podcast. I mean, shit.
yeah, look at
Just the ability to like when I'm done. Well, what you did when you're doing the YouTube, but maybe even back up a little bit and see if there's some way to figure in the editing because I don't do particularly fancy editing for like our replays, but it would be nice to have a workflow automation for that included before uploading it,
mhm, yeah.
adding the music at the beginning, at the end, um, add some title cards, that sort of thing. And hey, did you have anything else that you wanted to show us about this, Brendan? Because I wanna see if we can maybe attack some more of these great ideas for the
No,
year.
absolutely. That's I mean, I could keep going, of course, but no, let's save it and
Maybe this might be
oh,
There's a
this is a whole
I've all
presentation.
for
There's one of
sure.
your presentations there.
I was gonna say I've already hammered on Brendan twice this year. I don't want Brendan to bear the brunt of my responsibilities, but I think that would probably be a
Yeah,
good
always
one to
happy to do that.
expound on later,
It's
especially
super
after.
helpful because it's outside of WordPress, but it's connected to it.
Yeah, well, and
And it's
that's
important.
the thing I've been saying for a long time. This is a WordPress group, but we have other interests that are not that ancillary. I
They're
think that are
related
that are
tools. That's a good
yeah.
share, Brandon. But both of those are very good. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you for that. Yeah. So the idea number two, Steve,
Yeah.
I was telling these guys that there is an article and I put it here. I'll put it in the chat again.
All right.
LinkedIn News does an annual end of the year feature where they talk about ideas for the following year. This year, this article is called 25 Big Ideas That Will Change Our World in 2025. We just finished talking about number one, which is AI will pave the way to a shorter work week. I was going to mention, by the way, the article does mention it makes a correlation to Henry Ford back in 1926, where he revolutionized the work week with the technology of his day, of 100 years ago, literally, where he reduced or revolutionized the work week, reducing it from 48 to 40 hours. And now we might be seeing a similar reduction in the average work week. And I think, as we're seeing the spirit maybe of the Department of Government Efficiency catch fire and seep into the private sector, because obviously Doge is about the government, biggest organization on the planet Earth. But if we start seeing that spirit start seeping into the private sector, this might actually be possible. Now, we've seen forces that keep humans sick, distracted, ignorant, and all these different things that don't lead to reductions in our work week. But we can have our fingers crossed and see what we can do in our own realms to further that. So point number two, or idea number two, is millennial CEOs will usher in a new era of leadership.
Oh dear God.
Yeah,
It's all generational. It happens.
yeah.
It's not.
My inclination, unless somebody wants to stop and discuss that particular point, is okay, let's move on and see what's next, because there's 25 of these.
There's always
Gotcha.
most of the. Yeah, I ran through a bunch of them, and yeah, I don't know, but it's good for discussion, no problem. But it's like there's always a new generation coming.
Sure.
There's always, right. It's
As the resident
Well,
millennial
we've
here,
also, but we've
As
been
the
at
resident millennial, Brendan, what you say?
I'd like to just comment on that real quick. No,
do.
I know what the implications are. The problem is millennials are in their 40s now too. I mean,
Yep.
it's not like I think there's this implication that millennials are fresh out of college. No, that's not
Right.
the case. We're getting middle aged now. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's all.
Yeah.
it's a
I
natural
can't
progression,
believe,
right?
I mean,
It happens. It's generational. The generations.
I
That's
know
what the
the rest
boomers
of
said
us
about Gen X,
remember
right?
Y2K, and it's amazing to believe that it was 24 years ago.
Yeah.
Y2K, it was going to be the end of the technological world, and
We were all gonna die.
I
The
mean,
computers were gonna crash.
I
Oh
mean,
my
sure,
God.
I remember that too.
I
It was
had my
crazy.
mom and my wife and my daughter. They were all at home, and
I was in San Francisco, man, watching the shit blow up and doing the fireworks and shit. And I was living in Mississippi. I was a professor at University of Mississippi at the time, so I didn't give a shit. I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Europe, and then my mom was like, "Please don't go to Europe for the 2000 celebration." I mean,
Planes will fall out of the air.
your
yeah,
plane
like
will
I really,
fly.
I mean, if it's even halfway true, I certainly, couldn't lose my only son, blah, blah. I said, okay, mom, I won't go. But yeah, I didn't give a shit about it, man.
It's another
And
example.
then came midnight and the first and the second, and everybody's like,
Nothing happened.
nothing.
We
Crickets.
discussed this. We discussed this a
Crickets and
little earlier.
tumbleweeds, man.
We discussed a little earlier. There's always some kind of we're all going off
Oh,
the cliff.
shit.
We're all going to die, and my, why worry? Be happy. It's kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
it's just not worth it. It's like there's so many of these. It just happens almost every day.
Well, Greta Thunberg was, speaking of, younger generation, Greta Thunberg was in the news today for about half a second,
Get arrested again.
and she's becoming much less relevant as time moves
she's-
on.
She's way less. She should be way
She's only
less
relevant to the lunatic left, man.
Well, I will remind everybody we are recording, so be
Oh,
careful
sorry.
you don't say anything you don't want to commit to.
Well, if you
Number
can't commit to it, why say it?
Oh no,
I'm kidding. It's okay. I don't.
you know,
Are you?
I'm just reminding the recording is running.
Notice
So
that.
number 3 point is corporate employees, and this is kind of tied to that last one. Corporate employees will emerge as the next wave of influencers.
Wow.
I mean, that's whether you're from the corporate environment or the private, there's always going to be different influencers are going to emerge. Some of them are going to be in the corporate area, right? There's very smart people in the corporate environment. There's very smart people in the public environment. There's freelancers. It's
Yeah. Well, I mean,
maybe they'll be better funded, maybe.
this last year, with the Rogans and the Theo Vaughns and
Those
You
aren't
know,
corporate, right? I mean,
no, exactly. But I mean, we've been seeing kind of that what they were calling for a while the deep dark web. You know, the Dave Rubins, the Ben Shapiro's, these mavericks that were having these really successful podcasts. Which, in fact, I mean, I still believe that there was some effect of the fact that Joe Rogan came out literally, and really don't think it was planned. Um, Although I don't think it was an accident that Elon Musk went on Rogan 2 days before the election. You know, he clearly was there to try to coax Joe in a certain direction, but these guys are all kind of mavericks, so I guess we're going to see it coming out of the corporate.
well, I would support that argument in the sense that the corporate world sees the influence that these podcasters and these social media influencers are having, and they're probably going to put an emphasis on it to define their brands. So the corporate will sponsor influencers so to sell their Toyotas or sell their,
Yeah, but
whatever, Nike,
here's the thing
right?
though. One of the things that made these guys successful is the fact that they were willing to engage with both sides of any argument.
Well, right, I
And
understand that, but if the corporate, but he says that corporate employees will emerge as the next wave of influencers. Well, why is that? Are they going to
they
put
would,
money into that because they recognize they're like mainstream media is losing market share all over the place. They're increasingly irrelevant.
yeah,
So
but
will the
what's
corporate side, number three, is that going to be their new business model to fund
I think there's going to be
influencers?
they're going to have a hard time because I mean for corporate America to suddenly turn on a dime. And because think about what's the success formula for these influencers I was just talking about, long format and willingness to engage with the opposition, which is not the forte of the corporate world, which has been, I mean, 5 minutes ago, they were DEI and they were pandering and virtue signaling and everything like that. They're going to have to, there's going to be some serious fundamental changes. The
Yeah, but
format they can do.
you're
Anybody can, I
contrasting
mean,
with dying media, but when you take the four biggest tech companies, it'd be Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and
X.
well, X is a communication platform.
Okay.
As far as people that are like trillion-dollar companies, like those
Google.
people
Yeah.
can they're more attuned to social media and they can pivot very quickly. Like an Amazon, whether Amazon would Apple, would Facebook. There's a
I don't know.
fourth
Trump
one
was
there.
saying today that he just made an appointment with Jeff Bezos to have dinner because these guys. I mean, Zuckerberg was just there. Um,
Yeah, a week ago.
so I mean,
Jeff Bezos
would
become a fanboy. Have you seen how he's just come out of the closet and suddenly he's all for Trump? I didn't see that coming.
well, I think a lot of these some of these people actually are able to be taught, and they've seen the results of what they were doing. I mean, the whole Nazi and all that sort of stuff,
Mostly.
and saying that all those people that showed up at Madison Square Garden, they were Nazis, and I mean the narrative was just so crazy that it blew up in their face, man. I mean, I'm not a Trump lover by any means, but
It's better than the alternative.
well, I'm just saying I didn't see, all of that hyperbolic craziness that was going on was all for effect, and the effect I think had its effect, but it was not what they expected it to be, you know. I mean, Obama 2 days before the election was still carrying on about fine people on both sides, talking about the North Carolina
That
situation,
was all taken out of context. That was a
No, it was, and he knows better. I mean, because I mean, it's been debunked so many times.
Doesn't matter.
That
Yeah, that's why the Democrats don't have much of a bench, because what they did is they would just smear their opponents, and the stuff they did in the elections, they did it in their primaries. Like
well, they also smeared each other, man. I mean, nobody ate
Biden
their
wasn't going
own.
to win the primary the first time around. Every
Yeah,
time
That's
they
right.
couldn't, he was they Iowa, New Hampshire, they stopped the counting,
yeah,
Hmm.
right?
yeah,
When
yeah, yeah.
Buttigieg came out there, was
Obama
leading.
made the call, and three people dropped out the day before Super Tuesday. Screwed
Yep.
Bernie over.
Yeah, they use those super delegates. They're worth 100 votes, right? It's like
Hmm.
it's it's
It's
it's a
all rigged.
fake. It's a fake
They've in
primary. Yeah,
2016 was rigged too
yeah.
against
Bernie
Bernie as
Bernie was
well.
gonna whoop them all.
Oh yeah,
I'm not a Bernie fan at all. I don't, but but
Rogan endorsed him.
Oh, they hosed him
I
good.
I mean, most of the people on the right, they used to like Ron Paul, and the people on the left, they would like Bernie Sanders, right?
Right,
It's like it's just your
right,
ideology, I
right,
guess.
right,
It's
right.
because
But
they're
both of
against
them
their
got boxed
parties.
out. They both
Exactly.
got shut out. Republicans did it to Ron Paul. Democrats did it to Bernie.
And they tried to do it to Trump in 2016, but he took the party over,
Well,
which
Oh
congrats,
yeah,
they
honestly.
did it
yeah.
to Biden. They basically did a Bernie to Biden.
No, they boxed
Maybe
Bernie
not
out.
exactly, but I
They
mean,
handed it to Biden,
one
right?
second he's the candidate, next second it's like, oh, here you do it, Kamala. You know.
Biden's for two previous presidential runs, he got ran out. Plagiarism, lying. He
Yeah,
was,
that was in the 80s.
oh God, he's
It's
been
crazy.
the stuff he did. He's the one that taxes Social Security. He's the one.
He lied us into the Iraq War too.
Oh God, he's been
He's
horrible.
literally he's been on the wrong side of history like every single time. And
Every time.
yeah,
Yeah.
Every
yeah.
time, dude.
Well,
Every
for a
time.
millennial, you sure seem to
Quite
you understand
successfully
history,
though.
because that is so true, man.
Well, that was my major. I studied
He was
history
a
and poli sci.
disaster. He was
Are
been
you a
he was a
poli
disa-
sci major?
Yeah, history and poli sci.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no,
So
and do you
this,
have like psychosis, because when you
you
start
know,
spending time thinking about all this stuff, that it can mess you up a little.
I think you guys will like this one, especially. Well, three of us will.
The fourth
Uh,
one.
Number four, and a new type of intern will be joining the team. Uh, Kind of referring to that movie with Robert De Niro. But, in recent years, we've seen a flurry of retired Americans head back to work, driven in part by economic pressures and a search for personal fulfillment. I mean, I'm always struck by the fact that so many people retire and then die, because they've lost their force, their reason for existence. What a raison d'etre, or however the French pronounce that.
That's a problem for me, because I don't want to go back to work.
Well,
I'm kidding. I work all the time. I just work
I
for.
was gonna say,
I used to get paid. I don't do that anymore.
yeah, I was gonna say, you don't miss
Work for
getting
free.
paid for it?
No, I don't even care, man. I don't care. It's
Okay,
like, this is the thing. That's you'll never really achieve freedom. You need economic freedom. You need to be able to sustain yourself. You don't want to live in a tent by the river, and you don't want to starve.
right.
But you spend all your time to amass a certain level of wealth, and you're miserable the whole time. And then, like you say, you die. Now, I would do intern. I work with companies all the time. I do it for free because I like it. I enjoy it. That's the only reason. I mean, yeah, I do make a little money from now and then, but it doesn't matter if I do or not. The point is that, I guess I'm kind of circle of logic a little bit here, but if you enjoy what you're doing, you're not really working.
Well, that's a
There was one in here about the work week, like the AI, and you only work like 10 hours a week or 3 days. If you enjoy working, you're going to work. If you enjoy fishing, you're going to fish. If you
yeah.
enjoy poker, you're going to play poker, right? It's like you're not going to. And a lot of people, they thrive on business, they thrive on commerce, they thrive on helping people, and it's rewarding. And to
Well, I
divide and
like
say,
the
well,
I
right?
like that AI is going to help us focus more because, like your work or not, there's always going to be dumb busy work.
Well,
That's not
AI
the
for the
part of
stuff
the
you don't
job
want
that
to
you
do,
enjoy. So
AI for the yeah.
to be able to foist that on AI, and that way that time can now be spent on poker or fishing or whatever you're into. Um, it's pretty awesome, pretty awesome. So number five, all investment roads will lead to the U.S. once again. Anybody want to comment on that?
Maybe.
I think we
Well,
We're hoping.
more likely now with the new administration, but with crypto, blockchain, I think it's a world economy. I don't think it's going to be, and if the like the BRICS and the people are trying to wait for the dollar weighted transactions, you're going to create I mean, there's insane stuff going on in a multiple Vietnam, El Salvador, Morocco, some of these places that are adopting, you can do transactions around the world so much faster, so much safer, so much cheaper than you can. I worry about the regulatory environment in the United States sending investment and opportunities overseas. But this administration seems very crypto friendly. There's going to stop this whole insane inflation stuff where we're exporting our debt to these other nations. If that goes away, then that's true. I would have to agree with that. More people, because we're
Well,
still the
if
safest.
Doge brings the national debt down significantly, and the kind of numbers I'm hearing, I can see a road for that.
Yeah, if
Then
you
then
it's the monetary policy that's exploding inflation that's making the investment in the US dollar a negative proposition. They reversed that. It's the safest country in the world in that sense. We do have the rule of law, sort of. Um, yeah, it's possible. I hate to bet against the United States because we go up and down, we go in and out, and the pendulum always swings. But right now, I'd be very bullish on the United States.
there's some good momentum, and there's some really smart, and I believe good, in terms of moral good, people that are on the bandwagon to make these things happen. I mean, if we can, I mean, we've been selling my daughter's generation downriver. I mean, the kind of stuff we've been laying on their backs. And
Well, besides,
Brendan, are you even in your 40s yet?
No, I'm 34.
Yeah, so I mean, people of your generation are, I mean, it's kind of like,
well,
where we're dumping.
mostly it's debt,
Yeah,
excessive
that's what I'm
regulations,
saying.
right? But
Excessive
it's the
debt.
debt, right? It's like if they reverse that trend, but they're not going to eliminate $36 trillion worth of debt, but the growth of it, and then it'll stabilize over time. That could be huge. You can see a bull run in the dollar.
Yeah. Well, and we just have to look at like what's going on in Europe where the regulatory stuff is just stifling their
It's
business growth.
strangling them, man. It's
So
like
I'm
insane.
pretty optimistic on the US. Got all my money in mutual funds here, so I'm hoping it
Yeah,
goes up.
I
Well, I
wouldn't
mean,
be
just the
investing in
fact,
the Eurozone.
if we continue, or if we go back to how it was with Trump's first term, where he didn't get us into new wars and wasn't actively working like crazy to feed the industrial military complex, which certainly is what we've seen since,
That's the
then,
big thing. That's like half of our budget. It's crazy, and I would love to see that number go down.
oh yeah,
I don't
oh
know if it's
yeah.
possible in this
But it
country
has to
because
start with the mindset. It starts with a
well,
mindset.
and also like you said, being not wanting to get us into new global conflicts. That's the major way to do it.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I get I didn't really get to know Trump too well the first time. I was like, I felt like I voted for him with a gun to my head, almost literally. Okay, you know,
he's not a hawk, man. He's not a warmonger.
no,
He's
he's
very
not.
anti.
Yeah, no. And he's got kids, and he's got young kids, and he's got young grandkids. You get the impression that he's invested in their future, and that he actually can see a line between decisions he makes and the future he leaves them, even if they are going to be kids of a billionaire, or part of that legacy, but with Biden, it's like, hey, let's get hundreds of thousands of people, whether they're Ukrainian or Russian, to kill each other. There's going to be huge amounts of money coming back into the Biden fund. I don't see Trump caring that much.
there's going to be more pardons, and that's just going
Oh,
to.
I know. I know. Yeah, they're
I
getting
don't.
ready.
If you're worried about World War III, I don't think you can pick anybody but Trump. Really, he's the only one that's proven himself to be anti-war, and the stuff he's already doing as president-elect. Gaza's talking about surrendering the hostages. I don't know what's going on with Syria. That one, I didn't see that one coming.
I wonder if there's any hostages left alive, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, I suspect there's some because they're trading chips. They're valuable commodities, especially U.S. But
It'd be good, but
they probably kill the Israelis because there's such deep-seated hatred for
yeah,
them. But you
I
know,
mean that
yeah,
alone
but
is hideous.
Trump said he made a public statement that you free him by January 20th. Now, that's how what Reagan said. Remember what Reagan said when he freed
Yeah.
the Iranian hostages?
Hmm.
Back then, he says, and they released him the day that he got elected.
That's right.
He said, you release our hostages by it, and before I become president, and they did. And Trump's
I
doing the same thing right now. He's saying all of them, we want them all back. And he was that way in the first administration. He'd go meet the prisoners when they're coming back. He negotiated the release of hostages around the world. He made it a priority. You don't get credit for that stuff.
well,
He'd
the
show
fact
up
that
like in the
that
middle of the night to
Biden,
meet him at the airport, right? Just
I mean, the fact that Benjamin Accords went as soon as Trump was out, I mean, that alone would have changed that entire area.
I don't think Ukraine happens. I don't think the Gaza shit happens. I don't think the stuff that's happening with Hong Kong right now isn't happening. I don't think North Korea is happening. All that stuff doesn't. I just don't see it because he has kind of a world view. But you
Well,
know,
and here's the thing:
Andy Ferry, right?
the first time, I think they were scared of him because he's this crazy guy, and what's he going to do? I
They
don't
portrayed
see.
him as a crazy guy. He's never been crazy. He's one of the
No,
most
I know, but I mean,
thought out,
he was a
meticulous
loose cannon, is what I mean.
to the status
Now,
quo, to the swamp people, sure.
Hmm.
yeah,
Government
yeah, yeah,
bureaucracy, to
but also on the world
the
stage.
grift and the gravy that would run through DC.
Hmm.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, no, no. No, I'm just saying that I think he was seen by the world, and he was
But
an
that's the
unknown
thing. He
quantity on
is
the world
loved by the
stage.
world. He's loved in England. He's loved in Italy. He's loved in Argentina. They love him. It's
I,
only in the
I,
United States where he gets the. I
yeah.
mean, obviously the socialists in London don't like him, right? The Marxists in Germany don't like him, but for the most part, he's extremely popular around.
I think the
The
people
media
who are
doesn't want you to think
invested
that.
in the people who are invested in the corruption are the ones who push.
Well, yeah, that's the. I mean, if you watch NBC or you watch CNN, what do you think, right? I mean, anyway, do you want to keep running on your list?
Yeah, the next one, this one's interesting.
It is interesting.
Bank customers, basically face-to-face banking will get an upgrade. So we'll be going. I mean, anytime we can start putting people back into roles that have become automated, faceless, impersonal, and inefficient, I'm up for it. The fact that I'm always trying to identify somebody at the bank, at any place. I mean, at the grocery store, I like knowing the manager. I like knowing the checkers and people like that. You have personal relationships, and there's occasionally, other than just the social aspect of it, there's pragmatic
I,
effects
I,
for it. And in
unless
banking,
it's Zoom, I wouldn't. I don't think that trend will. I probably disagree with that. I think it'll be more face to face on the internet because the Zoom technologies will save a lot of people. You'll see a lot more of that. Save people from having to come down to the bank.
yeah, but think about it though.
I
Once
guess that can be
once they
considered face
opened
to
up
face.
once they opened up drive-throughs,
Yeah.
a lot of that face-to-face banking became kind of face-to-face through a screen anyway. It was a glass window that was 20 feet away, and you had to send the vacuum tube and stuff like that. So, if it's
But
Zoom, but it's actually a human being and there's some repeat,
well, if you
you know,
consider Zoom or drive up to be face to face, well, then I would agree. Right? I mean, but other than
It's
that, I don't,
just,
I think the trend is away from that stuff.
well, we
Banks are
have
going
a
to have
number
less
of,
labor. Oops.
well, we also have these banks. Like I have a Chime account, and it is the most impersonal thing. Try to talk to somebody,
You
you
can't.
know, and when you do, you get somebody with a foreign
They're not from
accent.
the United States, that's for sure.
Was that?
They're not from the United States.
No, no,
No.
there's no
It's not Bob from
possibility.
Denver. It's not Bob from Denver. That's fucking
No, 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 no. And it's not, I mean, up until recently, I was with Union Bank of California, and they actually put in a branch at the mall across the street from my house. But it was a nice branch. And you'd walk in there, and there would be regular people that you would see on a regular basis. It wasn't this huge turnover where every time you went in there, there was a new face.
Mhm.
Um, and so there was a possibility for that human interaction, but you could feel the resistance just in the way they did business to that whole idea. And then they put in a couple of large all you could call them would be transaction machines in the lobby, you
Mhm.
know, which we've seen in McDonald's and Jack in the Box and everywhere where
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
trying to eliminate that human, um, and have you just interact with a keypad and a little shelf that spits out cash. So it should be interesting. We'll see. Number seven's about hospitals. Hospitals will create new revenue streams.
They absolutely will, because any business will do that. But it's the next one I'm really interested in, eight, which is related.
Tell us
I
about
well, eight,
read it and talk about it.
well, eight is remote surgery will improve access to healthcare. Remote surgery,
It's
this is like
it's I've been hearing
that's interesting stuff. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff where doctors are operating on people like in another continent, and I believe that that could be changing. That should save costs. That should drive healthcare costs down. It should reduce mortality rates. That could be amazing. As far as the first one, as hospitals will create new revenue streams. Well, any business will do that if they have the
well, of
opportunity.
course.
And a
Yeah.
lot of the hospitals are owned by insurance companies, and it's insidious relationship that goes on there. Uh,
Hmm.
to argue against that, well, yeah, if they get a chance to charge you more, will they? You're right. So I don't necessarily disagree with seven, but I think competition will impede that. And eight is a great way to impede some of the hospital stuff, because if you don't have to come to the hospital for surgery, to have an appendix removed or carpal tunnel or whatever the heck they do, that's interesting. That's very interesting to me, and doable, certainly doable with AI, robotics,
Well, think about it. I mean,
cyber health.
in terms of tactile ability, historically, a surgeon had the most dexterous hands,
You're going to
had
have
the
way
the
better,
most fine touch and everything like that. The fact that we now have robotics
way better,
at that level, and
way
AI
better.
is
Yeah.
only going to make it more precise and more sensitive. Um,
Which is it leads into the next one, nine, which is very much related to eight. They don't do it that way. Nine says construction robots will help us fix the housing crisis. Well, not necessarily, but it will reduce the cost of housing, not to us, the consumer, but they will reduce the cost as builders. But these construction robots, there's still the robots that will be in healthcare,
yeah, no, no, no.
right? They'll be
I'm still resistant though to the idea that at a time when, every time the birth rate started going down, which I
since
thought that
the
was a great
affordable
thing.
haircut. The life expectancy rate has dropped
Yes.
since the affordable every year.
Yeah. 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 Well, and I
We have
don't
a
know that.
pretty high infant mortality rate considering an industrialized nation of our status.
I'm not sure that that's not by design, I
Oh
mean,
yeah, when
because,
you listen to some of these loons where, we got to get rid of like two, three-quarters of the population. It's like,
well,
what?
you notice that politicians never touch the subject really. So that, every time, hell, back when we had SARS, I was like, okay, this is how they're going to sneak in population control through the back door. Same thing with well, AIDS, and same thing with COVID. Is this basically a cowardly way of culling the herd? Um, but the idea that we're going to, especially with, I mean, it seems so stupid that the very same people that are for open borders, which means millions of people coming into the country and probably well suited for construction jobs, we're going to start eliminating those jobs by machines. I don't know. At some point in time, it seems self-defeating. What do you guys
It's
think?
it's a question of value added, quality and value added. I mean, if you need a heart transplant, are you going to pick, oh, I got to use a surgeon, but you have a 90% success rate versus a 40% success rate? What are you going with? You don't care if it's AI, robotics, or if it's a surgeon. You want the
Sure.
best
Oh
results,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you're going to get that. What's going to
Especially
happen?
especially considering DEI has been muddling up the
Well, yeah, it's like,
meritocracy
it's like,
in.
yeah, I don't really get all that. I get that social injustice and we want the best and we want everybody. But if you're going to have someone operate on you, you don't really care if they're black or white. Is you're
You know,
flying your plane? I mean, we all know this, right? It's like that it's gone this far.
yeah,
It's like, there needs to be performance-based
yeah. Talking
evaluations.
about planes falling out of the sky. For them to fall out of the sky because the guy behind the wheel wasn't as good as the guy who got filtered out in the in the
You
the in
degrade the
the
evolution of
selection process.
society when you do anything but elevating the best. It doesn't.
No,
I don't. My generation, we never really cared. Black, white, Asian, we don't care. Gay, we don't care. We want the best, right?
you want the best guy doing the
Right? You
job,
just
man.
want the best, right? It's
Oh
like,
yeah,
I mean, are there racists around? Well, of course. Are there people that are gender homophobic,
and screw
whatever?
them
Well, yeah.
always.
Well, no,
Screw
they're
them.
entitled to their opinion. That's like, I don't care, right? But most people, are you going to are you going to eliminate 40% of your market share because you don't like this particular? No, not if you're a business. Some businesses actually do that, right? Like they will alienate the Christian right, which can be massive. Why do you need to take a position on that, right? If you think this way, that's you're entitled. You think that way, that's you're entitled to it. To think you don't have the right to think what you think, well, that
Nope.
doesn't fit very well under our Constitution, does it?
Right.
Nope.
It may be morally wrong, and I agree with that. But is it the government's job to police your moral thoughts? I
No,
don't want to.
anything that puts the job at the feet of the government, I'm against it because it's
Exactly.
already big enough.
Exactly. Right.
You
It's
don't
like we're
need to.
never, if you've got hate in your heart, the government's not going to fix that. It's going to be there.
No,
Right. Let's just move on, man.
the
It's because
government
love will
sucks at
triumph
everything.
eventually. And keep increasing value, create increasing competency, make that your focus, and we'll all be fine, man.
Yeah,
It will be.
and
And the
give
people
them
they'll
good
die out.
tools.
The haters are they're gonna find their own end anyway. They always do,
Well,
right?
give them good tools, but don't eliminate jobs at a point where we have people without jobs.
Well,
You
but
know,
my guess is 70% of the jobs we have today will be gone in 40 years, right? I mean, you can't. It's like, oh, we can't go to the combustion engine and Ford because they'll put the buggy carriage people out of business.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
you
yeah.
know you it's like, oh, you can't use a calculator like in the 70s because
Right.
you won't be able to add, but you can't do advanced mathematics today without a calculator. Or
Right.
okay, right? It's like there's the Luddite mentality or there's the evolution of the species.
You
I
want to
think
hear an interesting
I
story?
think
I'll
that
try
can't
to
use a
make.
calculator thing though. That's Catholic school nun logic though. That's what I think that is from the 70s because
Yeah, well, they got the
I
ruler.
that's
remember.
what I
Yeah.
fucking had, man. And they were on my
I
nuts.
didn't want, yeah, they didn't want
And
you
when I
using it.
said, "How come I can't use a calculator?" My dad's accountant used a calculator. It was whack. There goes Steve
It's a
out the desk,
productivity
man.
tool, right? It's but
I'm saying, man.
uh, but Edward wants to tell us a story.
Oh yeah, right on.
So 2020, I was an early adopter of COVID. Were locked down end of March. By April 18th, because I listened to, because you remember there was a time when Fauci,
Yeah.
back when I believed in the CDC and the WHO, they were telling us that essential workers needed to wear masks, the rest of us didn't. All they were doing is trying to catch up on the supply of masks. We know that now. But as a result of that, April 18th, my late brother's birthday, I contracted COVID, or I tested. Well, I didn't even test. I came down with COVID. Fast forward to October of that year, I ended up in the ER. And at the time, one of the best cardiac facilities on the planet, Scripps La Jolla,
Hmm.
was 5 minutes from my house, literally one freeway exit. And I'm not kidding about the 5 minutes. I timed it. I could be there in 5 minutes. And I ended up in the ER with difficulty breathing, which my primary had initially misdiagnosed as COPD. But they immediately hooked me up to a brand new machine. I mean, this was brand new that they had it. The rest of the hospital didn't have it. Only the ER
Respiratory, the respirators.
no. It was a imaging machine. It was a echocardiogram. So they put me on there, and within moments, this was an AI assisted echocardiogram machine. Now, prior to this, if you've ever seen, like a sonogram where they put the little
Yeah,
wand on the
I know
lady's belly.
acrograms. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and the way that tactic works is they have a wand, they move it around, and the operator watches, and when he sees or she sees an image they want to capture, they hit the capture button, right? That's how it works. This machine was the first one, for all I know, on the West Coast that used AI, where it no longer needed for a human to actually wait for there to be a good image. It did it automatically, such that while I'm being imaged, there were people coming in from all of the ER watching. Ooh,
Holy
Checking it
shit.
out, huh? Yeah.
and as a result, I had, I kid you not, within minutes, I heard the words heart transplant, and some pretty scary stuff. But the point is that the lady who was the operator told me that in the development process, they actually took first year med students and put them at the wheel of this machine, and they were getting better results than cardiologists with years, or cardiac technicians with years of experience doing imaging. And that was 4 years ago.
That's the evolution of technology. Because echograms are notoriously unreliable. I mean, they would use that as a screening tool, is all. But the stuff
Well,
you're
I mean,
talking
if you
about,
had somebody really good at it, really experienced it, they could provide useful data for a cardiologist to make determinations, on. And I was fortunate enough, and they immediately, they said, "We're keeping you." I was there for the next week and a half.
I actually
But
have some knowledge about that because some of in my group, we used to play volleyball and barbecue with, but they would run the CMT machines for General Electric, and there's a couple of them here in town. It's that they were so much more efficient than the technology at the time, and that what you're talking about is the evolution of that,
oh yeah,
and
and
it's
that
the
was four
rendering.
that was 4 years ago. you know.
Yeah. And the stuff I was talking about was cutting edge 25 years ago.
Hmm.
I just happened to be, they were in our group and that's what they did. So I ended up hearing a lot about what they were doing at the time.
But
But
it
that's very
didn't it
promising.
didn't
That's
eliminate it didn't eliminate there was still a skilled operator using it because like
it's the
I
screening technology is what you're talking about. And
well,
the
I like
ability.
the idea of having a qualified person with a great tool.
Yeah.
Whether that tool is an imaging device or it's a electronic keyboard, and you've got
Yeah.
Chick Corea playing or Stevie Wonder or something playing it. It's a great thing. Now, when we start, handing it to Justin Bieber or whatever the hell, and that sort of thing, and we start eliminating real musicians and whatever it is, when we start eliminating good people by
Well,
just throwing
they created
technology in it.
they created content that was in demand. I
Yeah.
mean, what do you think of them?
Well,
Probably
now
not.
we're
I don't know if I'd recognize a song by him because I'm old, but if at the end of the day, it's like the proof is in the marketplace, right? People are buying the product,
well, right now we're
right?
seeing AI can spit out a song. I
Yeah.
mean, it,
Yeah.
it can do that, and we're at a point.
So I saw this infographic, and they said the highest revenue producing artists per state. And in Washington State, where I live, it's Kenny G. And Kenny G was roundly mocked.
Now?
Yeah, for all time.
Wow.
People would mock him
Oh,
but at the end of
sure.
the day, the
Oh,
marketplace
yeah.
decides, right? It's like it's really
Easy
maybe
listen. Yeah.
right.
Well, he's the
Yeah,
biggest artist in China. He's like a
it's
god
huge,
No
there.
shit.
just
Yeah,
huge, right?
Yeah.
It's like
they love him. They
if
play
they
his
love
song every
him,
day at closing time.
they
The
Okay.
love
Kenny
it,
G
right?
singers.
It's like who am I to judge? I like him, I don't like him, but it's really not up to me.
I always liked him.
Oh,
You
I don't have
guys
a
are
problem with
killing
him.
me.
I
You
don't.
guys are killing me with the Kenny G shit, dude.
But
Come
well,
on.
for years, I mean, for
My
years,
point is right. Sometimes we're not the best judge. The marketplace is that it's just like the betting markets for the presidential election.
Right.
Reddit betting markets had Trump overwhelmingly, but all the polls had him like, oh, it's razor thin. It's going to could go either way, right? Betting
Yeah, a
market,
bunch of bullshit.
but the markets really determine if the mass population likes Kenny G, who am I to decide, right? Who am I to judge, right?
I like to. I gotta qualify.
I
So,
don't have a
so
problem with Kenny
Brent,
G. I don't really
I know
care.
I just went down in Brendan's in Brendan's book, as an idiot. But for
No, not at
years at
all.
the end of my gigs, because I've had a mobile music company since '80. Well, officially since like '88. But there was Sinatra did an album called Duets. He did two of them, and there was one that he did with Kenny G of a song of his called Closing Time, I think is the name of the song. And they did a duet together. So it's got this really soulful sax. And I would always end my gigs with that because it was one of those, hair on the back of your neck sort of songs. So a lot of the pablum that he was putting out, the more machine stuff that he was cranking out, it got a little bit old. But anyway.
You know about Kenny G because that wouldn't Frank wouldn't Frank was sort of a purist, wasn't he? I don't know.
Well, in duet, if you ever get a chance to listen to at least the first duets, it was cool. He had, but it was one of these things where it was collaboration by long distance. The person would never be there with Frank. Frank would do his vocal tracks. They would do some basic orchestration and things like that, and then the person, whether it's Bono or Celine Dion or there was some other, Kenny G and the Natalie Coles, people like that. It was probably 14 tracks. It's a pretty good album, and a very, as always, immaculately produced. And it was a good. I was always looking at ways to present more legacy heritage artists like Frank to a young audience, you know. I mean, if you can play something at the time when of course, Natalie Cole, she's dead now, but whatever, you know, there were people on there that were relevant in the moment, and it was a way of introducing more widespread, mainstream sort of thing. But anyway, so, but Kenny's the, I would have never guessed that one. Is Michael Bolton number two?
Is he from Washington too?
I don't know, man.
No.
It's just for the state, just the state. It's not like,
So we're only up to, you know, and our meeting ended 33 minutes, so
yeah, I'm gonna have to
ago.
go here in a minute or two. But
But
Yes.
number 10.
Quincy Jones produced Frank Sinatra.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Quincy Jones has produced.
Everyone.
Quincy was a badass. He was a
he
badass.
passed away this past year, I think. But
Yeah.
I was surprised to learn that he actually produced Frank, who's been since the 40s, really 50s,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he's probably been dead 15 years.
Yeah, but Frank
Quincy
Frank
Jones.
was producing music through the 80s, you know.
Oh yeah,
When
no,
did
he
he
was.
die?
I mean, he's prolific, right? A generation passed, but I was surprised that Quincy Jones and him had an association, a relationship going back 50 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Sinatra died in late 90s. So, and
So 25 years, probably 24.
yeah. Well, he was
So he
singing.
was producing
He
Sinatra
was
stuff
singing
back in
into
the
his
60s,
80s.
right?
Sorry,
Yeah.
say that again, Brendan.
He was like producing Sinatra stuff in the 60s.
Yeah,
And
that's
he's been
that's what the
doing it
point I was
forever.
making. He was way back then, way
I'm
back.
looking right now. He also produced like Count Basie back in the 60s.
Oh yeah,
So,
Count Basie was good. Yeah,
Love
if
Count
you like that
Basie.
genre, right? I mean,
yeah, I'm a big jazz
Well,
fan.
let me
really,
rattle off
yeah,
the
cool.
rest. Let me rattle off the rest of the list, and then you know, if you want to stop me, stop me. Number 10 is climate innovations you'll be able to see, touch, and taste. Number 11 is supermarkets will embrace edible packaging.
They're already doing that in fast food. Like KFC's got
Interesting.
the edible wrappers now.
Wow.
Well, if you can make an edible panty, you should be able to make an edible grocery package.
There's a connection I didn't immediately think of. But, you might be onto something there.
Number 12, streamers will bet big on bundles and profits. Number 13, but our social networking world will continue to splinter.
Well, diversify would be a better word in my mind, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
people
saying
are going to
the
gravitate. They're going to gravitate. I mean, if you're into like taxidermy or if you're into like frisbee golf, why wouldn't you not naturally go to that? It's
Yep, yep,
it's
yep,
not
yep.
right. I mean,
Kind of
it's
like in the old days where there was always a publication. You could whatever you were into, you were, you know, there
yeah, that
was a
was whatever
magazine.
your click is, right? It's not a right or wrong thing. It's just a personal preference thing, and you should actually gravitate to the stuff that interests you and gravitate away from the stuff that's not of interest to you. So I don't see that to being any groundbreaking stuff.
How
What
about
else?
number 14? Augmented and virtual reality will change the way we travel.
Well,
Wow.
I didn't really. I mean, I get it, but not for travel, unless you're going to travel through augmented reality and never go there.
You know, I
That's weird.
remember what instantly pops to mind, and it's Philip K. Dick behind it, is Minority Report. You remember there
Yeah.
was a scene where he goes to that kind of an arcade where people were going there and paying, and the Total Recall was another one that had Philip K.
I,
Dick was behind Total Recall too, right? That was
I don't
his,
know. I don't remember.
yeah.
I like both of those
Blade
movies, but
Runner
I
for
just watched
sure.
Minority Report the other day for like the 15th time. So yeah, I like that movie
That's
though.
a
I
good
like that
movie.
movie. It's a good movie, especially with a lot of the pre-crime thinking that's going on in Europe. You
Yeah,
know,
man.
you've got people being arrested literally
That's
in the
some scary
UK.
shit though, because you thought of it, man. We're gonna pop you now, or like we know that you might do like that's what gets it in trouble in the movie, man. That's crazy shit, dude.
Like you get arrested because you're praying silently on a sidewalk.
Well, man,
No,
I'm
you don't
just
say a
saying.
word, and because you're praying. That stuff is disturbing, man.
A little bit.
A little. I'm not getting the little part, but yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I'm
yeah,
joking, right?
yeah,
Facetiously.
yeah.
Yeah,
I caught that sarcasm.
yeah.
Number 15, we'll go back to the moon, maybe Mars too. Okay. I
I
always
think
thought
we'll
it
go to
was.
Mars. I don't know I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime or not, though.
You're gonna take that long ass trip, man? I ain't got no time for that bullshit. Get me here. I ain't got no time to be
Well, I
gone.
don't know about Mars, but I mean, the moon, it was actually rather surprising that it's like after, what was it, Apollo 14 was the last one that went to the moon? What was the last one that went to the moon?
It's probably been
And then
20.
we suddenly just decided, okay, our nearest satellite, we're
uh,
done.
budget costs. We had to give it to foreign countries rather than, you know,
Yeah, but even they haven't. I mean, nobody else.
China. I think China landed
Did
something on
China land on the moon?
they
I think India
They
did too.
certainly didn't make a
Not
big
was it
deal
people,
of it.
but
India? Somebody,
not people, but like, mining operations or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you got to imagine
Well,
there's value to it.
Elon's a big on Mars, man. He wants to put,
Well, especially now that he's figured out a way to reduce the cost so greatly, you don't have to throw away a 40-story building every time you launch a satellite.
and that's pretty innovative the way he's recapturing those boosters and
That's a
stuff.
trip, isn't it?
That's
Not
pretty
only is
cool.
he capturing them, but each that thing that he caught was like the biggest structure ever. Was it the biggest flying structure ever built, or?
It's insane the stuff that he's doing. The loop. I mean, he's like the dude is. I mean, I had a problem with him early on because he got like $10 billion worth of government subsidies, and I'm not big for government subsidizing private sector. But that was my only criticism because
I'd
that dude,
say it was money well spent.
it sure seems that way. But I'm a purist in the sense that
Yeah, sure.
I don't really. I mean, there's the private sector and then there's the public sector. You know, you look at all this public sector funding they've done for private, like Solindra and all these, and they've all gone bankrupt. And the CEOs give big bonuses when they walk. That's usually the case. Elon's a bit of an exception here because he's producing. Now, I don't agree with all of it, but I'm a Elon Musk fan. But
Yeah,
I don't believe that government should be funding the private sector.
right, right,
Because
right,
if they
right.
fund the
Yeah.
private sector, then the public sector should have a portion of the
Well,
profits.
I think also,
Right?
especially if Doge is a success, I think that will more than justify his existence.
Yeah, as far as
You
the
know what I mean?
value proposition, I'm not arguing against that. And I'd rather money in his hands than most people's. And Vivek's the same way
Right,
because
but
they are proven.
if he saves us that kind of corruption and waste,
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
what he's like to save us versus the 10 billion that he got. Yeah, it's all relative. But there's a
oh, he's going
principle.
to save us a lot more than 10 billion.
There's a fundamental principle here. It's like
Yeah,
if the government's going to start funding private enterprises, then the taxpayer should reap those rewards. And that's not happening, right? When you give that money, all that goes into his corporations. None of it comes back to the taxpayer. That's the problem I have fundamentally, right?
right,
That's all.
right. In
Not that
retros in retrospect,
I'm
though,
a Elon Musk fan. I like the stuff that he's doing. I like how
right.
he equalizes the net. I like that he protects free speech. I'm a fan. Don't get
No,
me
and
wrong.
I don't blame you because I mean, look at all the bailouts that really didn't bring us value, But I mean, $10
Yes.
billion to Elon Musk,
Oh,
I would say
it's
already on
insignificant compared to it, but there is a fundamental
yeah,
right. That's all. And to ignore that, right? To say, oh well, it's okay in this situation, but all these other ones, it's not. No,
yeah, but
you
in
be
terms of
ideologically pure
ROI,
in your mind, so you don't end up being a hypocrite on down the road because people will abuse that.
yeah,
We're
but
fortunate that he's giving back great value,
that's what I'm
but
saying.
90% of the
He
time,
gives
that's not how
ROI.
it works out.
As far as return on investment, that's not bad.
Yeah,
Well,
but that's
okay,
not
you
the
guys
basis
will.
by why you allow a certain thing. It's like, oh, if I make a lot of money off it or I get good value, it's okay. These 99 other times, the taxpayer gets screwed.
Right.
You just
Oh
ignore
yeah,
that,
yeah, 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 yeah,
right? That's
yeah,
all. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
you,
No,
the
absolutely, absolutely.
fundamental, right?
Historically, the
Yeah.
way things used to be, yeah. So number 16, I know you guys will like. America will turn inward, and the global order will shift. After
I
decades of
just,
acting as the world's policeman, Americans have grown tired of foreign
I mean,
intervention. So things will be
well,
changing.
that part is, I do agree with. I do agree with that. Well, under the current the next administration, that will probably happen. But I think that we're gonna be like exporting prosperity around the world is what's going to be happening. I mean, when
And
you think
here,
about it in terms of global wars, yes, I think have less. We will less interventionist. I don't think Trump's going to be funding the Ukraine. I don't think he's going to allow any of that stuff to go on. I agree. But what happens is when the United States prospers, the rest of the world prospers too.
well,
And I
and
think what's going
also,
to happen is,
we used to be a role model. And the way things have been, that's not a role model for anybody, the way it's been recently. So the idea that we're actually going to work on getting our own house in order, I think that's the
yeah,
sort of stuff that's going to, at some point
but
in
just
time, people are going to start begging.
but here's the thing: it's like if you're a global company, if you're like a Ford or you're an Intel or you're a Google or you're an Amazon, you're not going to ignore world markets. You're gonna expand into all those countries.
No, I
So
know, but
I
those
guess
are
it's
private,
perspective.
those are corporate entities as opposed to government
Well, yeah, but that's
intervention.
America, right? Those are American corporations. Oh, well, if you think only in terms of government,
Right. Well, that's
you
what
say
this is
America.
talking. This is talking about geopolitics.
Well, I agree that we're not going to be the world's policeman. I think there's going to be less interventionists on that point. I do agree. They're
Yep.
probably right on that.
And
But
17 ties
when you make
in.
a blanket statement like that,
Well, 17 ties in somewhat. It says number 17 is, and global growth will hinge on how we support workers, which, I think
that's a
I
populist type.
well,
I don't,
that's where the liberal in me comes out. I want
right.
people to have decent lives.
Well, that's true, but we just talked about all the advances in AI and robotic technologies. So how much will that rely on a
That's the thing.
so I mean,
I
if you're going to
think
advance
this is where we need. I'm surprised that do we have an AI ethics board that yet that we need that somebody who can actually sit there and be a gatekeeper for AI and say, okay, we do need more AI, but I mean, right now AI is just kind of running away. I think it's going to have the effect of
no,
getting
no,
rid of a lot of jobs.
you're not going to stop it. Just like you're not going to stop calculators, you're not going to stop the internet. You're not going to stop it. I mean, you may have a more up. Hey, Brandon had to go, and I have to go because if I don't get dinner on the table at 8:30, it's like I may
Okay,
have to
well,
sleep on
we
the
got up to
couch.
17.
No, it's a good conversation. I'd love to continue it. Other one,
Yeah, we did good, man. That was good shit.
I have domestic obligations here, so I got to bust on out of here. So we'll see you
Well,
guys later.
It was good shit, dude.
Yeah, it's all good stuff.
I love listening to it, man.
I'd like to go through all of them. I like the discussion, but I have to go. So,
well, you guys have the link, save the chat.
all right,
Thanks,
man.
man.
And if I don't see you, which I won't, well, he's on, but I'll say it to you. Have a happy
Happy New Year
Christmas.
and all that. Merry Christmas. And we'll see you.
And you, sir. All
Right
right.
on, brother. Thanks, man.
Catch you
Appreciate it.
later.
See
Bye
you.
now.
Bye bye.